Good, thank you.
Moving now to our 3-minute round with Mr. Davies.
Thank you. Dr. Page, my research indicates there are 3 basic strains of marijuana. There's indica, sativa, and rudorellus or hybrid. Interestingly, sativa is the strain that grows tall and thin, and indica is the type that tends to be shorter and bushier. My research indicates that it's the indica, the shorter, bushier one, that produces the higher yield than the sativa, which grows tall and thin. So ironically, it seems by putting a 100-centimeter limit on a plant, we are actually enshrining the type of plant that will produce more yield based on this arbitrary notion of height than the indica plant, which will grow taller and produce less. Am I missing anything there?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. But yeah, in general, I mentioned before the science is still sort of out on this indica-sativa split and how it relates to sort of the effects of the plant. But generally, the sort of to generalize this taller, lankier, open flowering sativa type can be lower potency than this sort of dense, squat, wide-leaved indica type.
But there seems to be a pretty clear connection between height and yield. I'm just talking about yield.
Yep, and indicas, I mean, those style of plants, these short, squat plants, are the kind of backbone of the commercial cannabis industry, legal or otherwise. And so, yeah, by enforcing a height limit, there will be potentially a sort of a higher yield in that sort of area than these taller plants, though that's, you can get high yielding indica types as well.
Okay, and I thought you had very interesting testimony on the issue of research and your suggestion that, I mean, we're restricting home cultivation to 4 plants. I've got your testimony that you think it should be more than that, perhaps 10. And then we have the producers that will be applying for licenses, I presume, for commercial growing. But in terms of researchers at universities who may want to be growing plants for research and experimental purposes, would you suggest that we amend this legislation to provide a clearer section on that to make sure that researchers can actually get access to grow the kind of cannabis they need to do the research that I think we all want done?
Yeah, I think adding that to the legislation would be beneficial. I mean, some of these things have been treated in regulations. So currently under the narcotic control regulations, licensing and exemptions for research are delineated there. But it has been the case that we just don't have the research that we need, and Dr. Mark Ware indicated the same thing around clinical studies. So enshrining it in legislation and being very clear in the Act that access to the cannabis plant, be it for the plant science side or the constituents for research purposes or trials, I agree it should be amended, and that would be beneficial.
Last word to you, Mr. Conroy. Anything that you would like to add?
Well, we don't have time for anything that I'd like to add. As I say, where are the bodies? I think after all these years, we don't have any of these problems that many people have talked about. And we've had for a long time now many people producing for medical purposes, and we've managed to iron out some of the kinks as we go along, and that's what we're going to have to do here. Certainly the Act doesn't address all of the issues, and I think you do have a problem in terms of source, in terms of the 12 to 17-year-old that is there. Even though I agree completely that is a good thing in order to avoid them being stigmatized for the rest of their lives as a result of cannabis. But I don't think we have, if you look at the big picture in terms of how many people have been involved in this over the years, sure, we have a legitimate basis to be concerned about certain things, but we don't have on the ground many of these problems occurring. We've been able to sort them out, and I think we can sort them out in the future.
Now, okay, that completes our official